Before we get into the show, just want to tell you about a piece of content out on Redmen Plus, and that is our Hendo docu-series, which we have lovingly and caringly turned into an incredible podcast series. If podcasts are your bag, if documentaries are your bag, if Liverpool is your bag, then this is the show for you. Episode 3 is out now on Redmen Plus.
Hello everyone, it is time for another Redmen podcast. I am Paul Machin, I'm joined by Steve Hoare, and this week we've got Nicky Allt in, finally. I think it's taken me about 10 years to finally get you in on a podcast.
The reason being is I just think that younger people should be commenting on the team today, and you know, I've sort of had my day. I love writing the shows and I love writing stuff, but it's hard to be behind stuff and not really front of stuff. I just think it's time to hear a young person's point of view.
Well, you say that, but have you been on Twitter lately? Young people, a lot of the young people on Twitter have got nothing but shite to say. So we'll play the role of middle ground for now and see how we get on with it. Nicky has got a brand new play. Well, an updated version of a play on at the World Cup. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. I had such a good time with that last time around, so I'm quite excited to talk about it. We have got a kick-off question before we get into everything, though, and it comes from Richard G, who's one of our Club Legends subscribers. He says, Trent has won all there is to win. He's even got a Premier League Club World Cup, 2 trophies that Stevie never got. Could Trent start being classed as the greatest Scouser to play for Liverpool? Or if not, how many more trophies and which ones does he need to earn?
That's a big question.
It is, isn't it?
On a Tuesday morning.
Yeah. I mean...
You can't be the greatest, though. I mean, look at people like Phil Thompson.
Yeah.
He won like European Cups and like about 10 leagues and I don't know, whatever.
But I was going to say, if it's based, it's not based on trophies, because it just isn't, because it just can't be, because Phil Thompson pretty much won more than Stevie, but a lot of people, especially again,
definitely won more than Stevie.
Well, sorry, but then our generation, and again, it might be different, but like we'll still see Steven as the best. So it's like to say which trophies does he need to win is kind of irrelevant. It's more, can he, if Trent sustains his level for like another 10 years, then he's in the conversation. Well, where it's going to be hard to get past Steven Gerrard.
Who are the ultimate Scousers to play for Liverpool then? So like obviously Steven Gerrard, and we've mentioned Phil Thompson.
Tommy Smith. The 60s side had quite a few of them, and then going forward to the 70s side, Chris Lawler. No, I'm thinking of people who've won a lot of stuff. That's Phil Neal, but he's not a Scouser.
Terry Mack, maybe.
Terry McDermott.
Cali?
Jimmy Case. I'd have him as the greatest.
See that, because what you're getting across this is you're getting a broad spectrum of. In Gerrard, you've got the undisputed talent. I think probably the most certainly the most talented Scouser I think ever to play for Liverpool.
Say so.
Then when you come to like obviously the most appearances is Ian Callaghan by an absolute mile.
And Carragher's close.
And you've got Carragher. Carragher's a couple hundred behind, isn't he? But to that point.
No, he's about 100 behind, isn't he?
Is he really? Okay, so well there you go. You've then got. Obviously, Phil Thompson's got the trophies and the medals to lay out and all that. But I think it's an interesting question because Trent's got the potential. He's got the potential to get the appearances.
Yeah.
He's got the talent, without a doubt. He's certainly the most talented Scouser since Steven Gerrard in terms of what he can do. And he's already started to amass silverware. If he adds a few more trophies on top of that, and then he goes, he could potentially do another 10 years at Liverpool, have 600, 700 appearances for the football club, have a handful of Premier Leagues, European Cups and whatever under his belt.
I think sometimes, it'll go against the grain of what a lot of people think, because he's already doing brilliantly where he is in his position. But I just think he should be in Steven Gerrard's position. I think he should be in a centre midfield. People are moaning about a midfield player now. I think if he stuck Trent there, he can tackle, head, cross, and it's a bit like Steven Gerrard. Steven Gerrard often ended up in the right back position crossing the ball.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting point because obviously Pep Lijnders loves Trent and he always goes on about how he had him as the DM in his like development side, and he's reinvented the right back position. There's no one else who can quite play it like him. But we're always going to have that because I think how we all recognise what footballers look like. He looks like a midfielder. He plays like a midfielder. A lot of his positioning is central at times for the club, and maybe we'd recognise it more. Maybe there's just because you still have the problem with him playing right back, and this is the one thing that will hamper him. Is I still hear people going, he can't defend. which is nonsense, by the way, because he can defend.
He's too busy attacking.
Well, exactly. The system literally requires him to be down the other end of the pitch. If he had another half a yard of pace, you know, if he had Kyle Walker's pace, you'd be taught no one would have any doubt over everything he had, because he'd be able to bail himself out of trouble a bit more. But the fact that he doesn't have that means he has to work a little bit harder. But yeah, if he played centre mid, I don't think no one would have anything left to criticise him for. No. So
he's gonna, when he finishes, he's gonna be like, if you pick an all-time Liverpool 11, he's probably in it now. To be honest, I don't know what else he probably is, but he's definitely he is going to be in the top 5 Scousers, top. Like Gerrard, I for me, a Fowler is definitely, a Fowler's unbelievable. And there's so many of them, but and again, right back, it's not a very sexy position. Being the goal scorer.
Well, Jamie Carragher did no fullbacks any favours by basically saying they were all failed wingers. Nobody wants to be. No one wants to be.
No one wants to be Gary Neville.
No one wants to be Gary Neville.
It's like, yes, Gerrard was the action in the middle of the park, and then the goal scorers or the big centre halves lifting European Cups. Like, there's a chance Trent becomes Liverpool captain. In fact, I'd be shocked if he doesn't. Yeah. At one stage, he'll be Liverpool captain as well, and then that'll add to his argument even more.
If I say something to his boat there, because it's quite interesting, because I will probably forget this, is when we were writing the stadium tour, me and Dave Kirby, we had to ask each individual player what their hopes for the future and what their ambitions were. And Trent was very, very young then. He must have been 17, just breaking into the team, whatever he was. And I remember him very coldly and coolly saying, I want to be the captain of Liverpool Football Club. And he said it so coolly and quietly, because he wasn't speaking much, he was quite shy then. And we were like, he means that.
Yeah, that's true. I remember a great story about Gerrard, and whether this is true, this is just one of those like sort of teenage folklore thing that gets passed around school, was how he was going out with Jennifer Ellison, and apparently they broke up because she wanted to go out and he wanted to be Liverpool captain. You know what I mean? It was like, so that was like I love
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say he slide tackled in a nightclub.
Yeah, he just got a little bit. He just got a little bit.
Two faults a day.
Yeah. But yeah, like the Trent thing, we're in a weird position now where it's like people don't want him to be that good, and of course it's because every football club, because there's that many English right backs now, every half decent football club's got a half decent right back, so you're trying to find ways to claw the other ones down instead of celebrating them. And it's the assistant, a few more goals a season I think I'll add to his lustre a little bit, because you can't deny goals, whereas you can deny assists, because of, you know, you're having people trying to like denigrate getting double figures assists every season, and it's like, oh well, like volume merchants, and oh, he just does it in the Liverpool system, blah 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 blah. You're like, it's astonishing what he's been able to achieve as a footballer so far.
And what your problem you've got as well today is fullbacks have got to be so much more in today's modern game. It's like the kid who we just sold to Notts Forest.
Yeah, Nico.
I thought he was going to be a great player, but what he had to do more than just be a right back. Now I thought if you left him at just right back, he had pace, he was solid in the tackle, and if he was just like an old style right back, you go, we've got a kid here for the next 10 years. Yeah. But he wasn't even expected to be a winger and all kinds. And you get caught, you're going to get caught out.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. So it is a fascinating one. It makes you wonder, because we're going to talk about the midfield, because it's like the only remaining talking point about Liverpool. You know, it's Liverpool are that good that we have to find something to have a problem with.
Don't these people on social media have to find a problem?
Don't we just? Yeah, there's always got to be something. I mean, people, I would contend, and I've long contended, that everyone needs to have a little bit of misery in their life, because it's like a common unifier. It's something you can talk to about anyone.
Misery loves company, doesn't it?
It does, it's true. We said this about you know, think about how many crap jobs you've done over the years. And I used to work in like shops, and you'd be stood around doing fuck all day, and so you needed something to talk about. This like a strange bunch of people you've got nothing in common with. You've got to find something to do, so you bitch about your boss, or you bitch about the customers, or you complain about like some function of your job or whatever. That's the thing that unifies staff together in that thing, and I think people have that in life.
Do you know, if I say to you there, and the reason I sort of don't go along with that, and you're totally right, that is what people do, is everyone's got misery coming to them, because people are going to lose parents, they're going to have sicknesses in the family, they're going to have sicknesses themselves, so misery's going to come to you. So you know what? Don't bring it on. So don't talk about it. Sometimes maybe I'm too optimistic and too positive, but I mean, like this year, December, lost my dad, my mum's had a stroke and stuff like that. They're old. It happens, and everybody is going to get misery. You can't avoid it. We all avoid it. As human beings, we pretend it's not going to happen to me. Yeah. We're all going to die. We're all going to get old. You were talking about it when I come in. Yeah. But the point of it is, when Liverpool Football Club are doing so well, I don't understand these people who are moaning, like when we drew with Fulham, know all the greatest Liverpool sides. if you go back in the history of them, a lot of them had off days first game of the season. There was little draws, there was defeats, and then you picked up as the season went. But people today have got no patience for it.
Yeah, well, there you go. You heard it here first from Nicky Allt. We're all going to die.
There you go.
So just enjoy Liverpool.
Just party,
Yeah. Right, Sal, we're going to be talking about the Fulham game because Liverpool were crap, but we're going to go through it and see if we can piece some bits together, post that, and then we're going to be moving on to talk about You'll Never Walk Alone. We're going to be talking about the midfield, and we'll have a little bit, if we've got time, we've got a few minutes to laugh at Manchester United, which always adds to our mood. Right, it's a very short break from us, and we will return. Ta-ra.
Redmen Plus is here and we're ready to be your partners in what will be an unbelievable journey following Jurgen's mighty Reds.
We'll be there with you, side by side, shoulder to shoulder through the good times and through the bad.
Be with us at Anfield.
Be with us at stadiums across England.
And be with us at stadiums across Europe too.
Whether you're in Australia, America, Ireland, Scandinavia, or even down the road, it doesn't matter.
We can take you from wherever you're based straight to the heart of the action.
We'll cover Liverpool from every possible angle.
With tons of amazing shows, documentaries, features, interviews and more.
Both in video and podcast form.
So you can be a part of the action,
A part of the discussion.
A part of the celebrations.
A part of this journey.
Together with us.
Join us today. Subscribe now at redmenplus.com. Let's do this together.
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 Together. Yes, welcome back. It is a brand new season. It hasn't quite started as we all dreamt, but we've got you covered from all angles over on Redmen Plus. Do head over there. Right, we drew 2-2 with Fulham a week after beating Manchester City in the big 50p. There's no escaping it, Nicky. Liverpool were crap at the weekend, and the game was the game was poor. It wasn't what we expected. The thing the note of encouragement on all this, I think, if your football team's bad, or you think your football team's bad, but then it doesn't seem to be backed up, like maybe the manager doesn't recognise it. I think the fact that Jurgen Klopp just come out and was just like, yeah, they'll do rubbish. It doesn't change it, but it actually gives you that sense of confidence that we should all have, because we know Liverpool's manager knows what he's doing. But it is refreshing sometimes when he does just come out and you go, whew, okay, well, at least they obviously recognise that as a situation, as opposed to like, oh no, you see a lot of managers go, oh no, look at the positive here and the positive here and the positive there. He had no time for the positives he was focusing on. It was a bit shit.
I seen, what's her name, Graham Souness basically sum it up quite right yesterday. He sort of said it, and it's always true in any football game, it's still 11 on to 11, no matter who you've bought and who you've got. And Liverpool started the game slowly and poorly. Fulham started like it was the FA Cup final, like it was the Champions League final. The minute you don't step into that level, it's very hard to drag it back in. When a team's 15, 20 minutes in and you're looking around going, God, these aren't giving us a minute on the ball. It's very hard to turn your game round and go, right, we better get like them. Yeah. You've got to start like them. And I think Liverpool in the last, since Klopp's been there, have always started that way. So when people start to moan about it, I don't get it, because maybe it comes with longevity or being a long-time fan, or a fan of maybe 10 years or whatever, that you watch games and when you're playing poorly, you think, we're a brilliant team, we're going to win all kinds, we're winning all kinds. Just take it easy, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing that kind of come of it, which Jurgen does himself no favours, the dry pitch stuff. Like, honestly, I wonder whether he does it half as a joke sometimes, because, and don't get me wrong, I'm not sure he did, but it's a bit of a joke. I know it's a bit of a joke amongst the players. I mentioned this on a show this week, how we played Pro Evo with Divock, Karius and Joe Gomez a few years back, and when Karius actually brought the keeper out and the ball stuck and he got lobbed, which was hilarious. We didn't know, little did we know his career would pan out from there, but they all laughed about the dry pitch. They were told the pitch was too dry, and so it's clearly a topic of conversation behind the scenes at Liverpool. But it does himself no favours when he mentions things like that, because it's just a second he said it, I was like, nothing he says either side of this is going to matter to all those horrible banter accounts and all the other people who are looking for something to pick up. Yeah, and that's what you had. You had it was literally like he came out and slammed his hand down and went, that dry pitch is the reason why Liverpool crap today. I mean, he never. It was a almost comma in a wider sentence.
If you watch the whole interview, I think it's like 4 minutes, and in every part of it, he was like, we were crap, paraphrasing, we were rubbish. the best thing is we drew because we were rubbish and we should have lost. And then that pitch just comes out, and I don't know if it's calculated. He's either really clever or sometimes he's like a really honest guy and he just talks what's on his mind, and he's not, I don't know, like the media trained party. We would just go, yeah, we were rubbish, we'll try again, we'll regroup, we'll go back and we'll try again. But Jürgen, he doesn't really do that because I think he's very clever with the media, and that he tries to be as honest as he can and get up by keeping people on board as well. And I think sometimes it just slips out. He's probably thinking that but that's going to happen at every single ground. It used to be worse. Like, you know, teams would, you know, turn eating off in the changing room, so you'd be, you know, all that just happens when you go away from home. Tough shit, get on with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really clever in that he thinks, rather than everyone going on for 9 days until we play Palace about how crap Liverpool are, if they're just all talking about me in this dry pitch, the players aren't getting it as much. You know what I mean? Because, like, there's only so much ridicule that people can spread around. And if it's, well, are they going to get on Trent's back for the defending? Are they going to get on Fabinho's back or Henderson's back or Bobby's back or whatever? Or do I just throw this dry pitch thing out and get it on me? Or the flip side is, it's not that clever at all, and he's just saying what he thinks.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. I think it's a bit like it creeps into people's talk, and you get it with footballers a lot, or you get it with politicians where you've been briefed enough and key words then slip out when you're then talking because things have been said and been said and been said. I think in the Liverpool changing room, they'll have gone, okay, it's like you work in a restaurant, and when your restaurant's empty on a night, you go, why is it empty? So you go, oh, is there an event on in town? Or what's the weather like? Or you know, is it when's payday? How long is it till payday? So you come up with a bunch of quick reasons why it might have not worked for you. And the dry pitch, I just think, is one of them. And the problem is, of course, he either recognises it or he doesn't. And if he doesn't recognise it, then he doesn't care that he's saying it out loud, whereas it becomes a little bit of a point of ridicule because it's that old logic of it's a dry pitch for both teams. But it's such a nothing thing. I think Nicky just goes to show Jürgen Klopp's massive and Liverpool are massive. The idea that Jürgen Klopp's saying something that is nothing could end up being reported in such a huge way kind of gives you the sense of just how big he is and everything he does is.
If I had a name as big as him, kind of thing in the job I'm in, I'd be banned off TV and I wouldn't get no work and stuff because I say stuff and virtually every few sentences I say. I think with him, I think it's an honesty thing. I think he struggles really to be deceivious knowing he's in a, you know, to show any deceit in an interview. You can see that. So I think things just slip in.
I think he is. I think it's that he doesn't try and play the game.
No.
Perhaps, I don't think I was saying there's two sides.
I think he has to be told to play it sometimes. So last Christmas we went, COVID, I'll tell you anything you want to know. I'll tell you who's got COVID. And then someone went, stop telling people who've got COVID because it means they can't play. Yeah. And he went, yeah, okay. And within a week, his tune totally changed on that.
When he told everyone, you know, everyone fly to Basel and come and have a big party. And then the next press conference, he walks in and sits down and goes, before I start, if you're not haven't got it, don't fly to Basel. It's you know, and you're right. He doesn't care. And we've been in press conference. We've seen how he interacts with the PR people and stuff, and he just doesn't give a fuck. Basically, well, he's an honest man. And if you ask him a question, and you spoke to him, and he won't bullshit you. No. He won't do the, you know, we're just trying to get better. We're just training every day, and you know, one game. He is just literally. He'll tell you anything you want to know because he's so comfortable in his own skin. He doesn't need to fool you because. I've always said this, I thought Brendan Rodgers, for example, he was almost trying to curry favour with Liverpool fans. I don't think he felt comfortable. His demeanour or his stature of being the Liverpool manager, it was almost like he was acting up.
Like imposter syndrome.
A little bit. Jürgen could leave Liverpool tomorrow and he'd have a new job. And it would probably, you know, Real Madrid would sack their managers to get, or, you know, he'd walk in, he'd be the next time, he would be. Not a lot of people can get that really. And I'm not saying Jürgen's bigger than Liverpool because he's not. But what I'm saying is, he's worthy, so he doesn't have to try and prove himself. Why do you have to lie? Why do you have to the Jose Mourinho thing of getting the world against me and all, you know, like, if I prefer not to speak, all that kind of stuff? Yeah, he'll just tell you what he thinks. Yeah.
Do you know what's on there as well? A lot of that's in as people. Don't want to get deep again, but as we evolve, people can see when you're a phony now. Really can quickly. Years ago, loads of managers were playing mind games. Mourinho still does it, and it's like he's even outdated.
It's boring, isn't it?
It's boring, yeah. And years ago, your Don Revys, your Bill Shankleys, all these people, they were all playing mind games with wet pitches. This is going to happen. This player's not fit. It was all going on. I think today, if you're doing that, and it still goes on, people can see right through it.
Yeah, Solskjaer was trying it last year, and everyone's
Yeah.
going, mate, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
What are you doing, you idiot?
Yeah.
I remember seeing it was one of the reality shows. I think it was a short-lived one. I feel like it was on MTV. I can't remember what it was. It was either 50 Cent one or a Puff Daddy one or whatever. But there's a guy and he's going, I'm playing mind games, and getting in your head, and they're going,
Yeah,
it's not mind games if you're telling us you're playing mind games, mate. You can't tell someone you're playing mind games. And that's basically what like these guys are like these days.
Yeah.
And I don't think, you're right. I don't think you're.
If I just give you a quick one as well, sorry to interrupt you. There's no Brendan Rodgers. I wrote Celtic's show for them up there, and I met him a few times, and he was a really sound fella, really nice fella, but it was like he wasn't that person you seen in front of the camera. Yeah, so even you become a little bit risk averse to what you're going to say and to getting stick and to getting leathered off people.
Brendan got it early.
Yeah.
And he realised, I do have to put the barriers up a little bit.
Yeah,
Jürgen's he's just walked in and been himself from day one pretty much. And so if he thinks the picture's dry, he'll just say it. But it's just a throwaway comment to him. But like you said, like, everything gets magnified at 100,000 million percent.
There's a reason why no one's asked that Jürgen got his teeth done. Whereas Brendan Rodgers, it was like a massive talk of point of comment. Yeah,
Jürgen's or not?
Yeah. Right. I want to talk about a couple of the performances in there, but I can't help but get this sense about this game, Steve. If Hendo's goal goes in at the end, if it gun pings in off the underside of the crossbar and in, we're not giving this anything like the level of scrutiny that it's being currently
You're giving it the mentality monsters thing, aren't you? You know, Alex Ferguson's team get loads of credit, Man United of the 90s and 2000s, for scoring last-minute winners. Mm-hmm. No one forgets for that. Why didn't you score another 89? Why did you have to leave that? Because you probably didn't play very well. Yeah. But you get the mentality monsters thing, and like I say, that is the game. It's inches. Like there's, you know, another ref doesn't give that pen. Another ref gives the foul on Henderson in the build-up to the goal. This is not to say Liverpool weren't rubbish, because Liverpool were rubbish. I can't emphasise enough.
Yeah, and just to clarify, you know, they hit the post, and that actually does hit the inside of the post. And that's even closer to hitting the post and going in as well. So it works both ways.
Diaz did as well, didn't he?
Yeah. Exactly.
Sometimes you look, but this isn't. Sometimes you get away with one and you go, got away. You know, like that, we've done that loads. Liverpool have done that loads of times. I remember the Aston Villa game when we were 86 minutes and we were crap. Yeah. And then Robertson scores and then Mane scores. And it's like, oh, look how brilliant we are. We're going to win the league because they were the mentality monsters and stuff. They didn't play well, but they nearly got away with it. That again, it's justifying margins. What I would say, Paul, is if that goal goes in, like it would be what you say, like not undeserved win because you win if you win, but like, you know, Fulham would be like very hard done by.
I think, look, for the people who analyse and people care to analyse it, would still be going back and going, right, look, Liverpool didn't get out the blocks, but you get to analyse it from a position of, like, we dodged the bullet.
It's actually easier to do that because I think it's easier as a manager to be critical of your team when they've won, because you can say, that was crap, you can really have a bollocking at them because you don't have to worry about picking them up. Because they're already up, because they've just scored the last minute winner, they're all buzzing. Rafa did this a lot. You know, they walk off the pitch and like they've just won, he'd be like, yeah, but you did that and that. You can do that. Because this week now, Jürgen's got to, not only has he got to sort the tactic stuff out and what went wrong, and there was quite a bit that went wrong, and performances, and now there's injuries and illness. They're all feeling really low as well. Yeah. So like it's hard to really bollock someone when you're trying to pick them up at the same time. You've almost got to like gently ease them up a little bit. Yeah. That if you won, you can just shout at them.
And that's. Do
you think they're feeling low?
I think they will be feeling like I think they'll be feeling like they haven't played well, and I think that will. I don't think
not low how we feel low.
Yeah, not low
as normal human beings feel low, where we're sat in the corner eating ice cream with our hoods up, you know, watching.
But I think if you asked a lot of them, they'll be down about how they played. I don't think I don't think a draw away from home. I don't think they're going to be. Like say, they're not binge watching Netflix with Ben and Jerry's, but like I think they'll be thinking, oh, you know what, they'd love to have a game tomorrow, just to put it right. And the fact that the big massive gap doesn't, I think they will.
The fact that
it's ridiculous that the season starts and you haven't got a game for 9 days.
But also I don't think the City result helps. I don't think the fact that Tottenham started, look, and this is why I think psychologically we're different to elite athletes. Believe it or not.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, you know, the elite mentality runs in several ways, but not in this way. But no, we do take it more to heart, and we take it more to heart because it's not within our sphere of influence, and that's why we get more wound up by Liverpool defeats than probably the players do, because they know, well, I'm just going to work that hard and train, and someone's going to tell me a few different things to do, and then the next week I'm going to go and put it right, and I get to put it right actively myself. So I think the players will be fine with that because they can deal with it. It's one game, and they'll just go, well. And this is the broader point on this. It's a draw. it's only a problem if you draw the next game and the next game and the next game.
Yeah.
Or if you lose, if you run out of points that you can drop very early on. I mean, we had this in 2009, 2010. So we finished second to Manchester United, and then we lose more games in the first 5 of the next season than we'd lost the entire season previously. And then your title challenge is over.
Doesn't matter with Liverpool now, because if Liverpool do that, they're going in the Champions League.
Yeah, and that exactly, and that is the difference with this side compared to sides previously, and that's why we should all be more comforted, but we do naturally take it a bit more to heart than maybe these players.
I just think there's always like X amount of games, because City are so good as well. These two teams are phenomenal. There are X amount of games you can drop points in, and it's probably like 5 or 6 maybe in a season, and you Fulham away as your banker that you just that isn't going to be one of those 6. So I was saying the other day, what it means now is that in another game where the draws are good results, you probably have to go and win now, and Liverpool are capable of doing it. Like, if you said before the start of the season you're going to go to the Etihad and draw, and Chelsea and draw, and Tottenham and draw, you're like, yeah, you know what, that's not too bad. Liverpool, it might just mean that they have to go and win one of those games now, which they are more than capable of doing. Yeah. It's just, I think what's causing the anxiety, and we're going to talk about it later, is that it isn't just the fact that there's the draw. I think it's the injury and the amount of players absent. I think when Jürgen said before the season, in his press conference the day before we went to Fulham, he says, we have got too many injuries. And I think when the manager does say that, everyone's like, fucking hell, we have got too many injuries. We really have got too many. I mean, you're looking at your bench, and with all due respect to Sepp Vandenberg and to Stefan Bajcetic, I think that when people look and go, they're on our bench, and then you realise we've got a board over there, and all those players on the bottom are injured, and there's more on the bottom there than there is on the team almost, because there's that many. I think that's where the anxiety is coming from as well.
So can I, what's your name, just say from an older supporter's point of view, literally for me, I think because there's so much business involved in football, it is business now, of course. 100%. I just think Liverpool are doing absolutely fantastic, keeping up with Man City. So for me, I don't see no negatives. I really don't. I know modern day fans where, look, it is what it is. Man City can spend that level of money now, so if they get an injury now, they can go and pay 60 million, throw it there, whatever. Liverpool don't. The fact of it is they don't. It is what it is. The fact that we're keeping on their tails and where we are, everything's positive to me. I'm like, look what Liverpool are doing. It's unbelievable. Because I remember the 90s, no trophies for ages. After 2007, was it the FA Cup or whatever? Won about 1 League Cup in about 10 years. It was rubbish. Yeah. It was so crap that I'm looking at Liverpool and what they've done. And the whole rest of the league and country, and you have probably said this, should be thanking the world that Liverpool are there, giving some kind of challenge. Because otherwise, City's just it's like some daft league, what they win every year.
I think the problem that people have with it, to continue with the borderline metaphysical of it all, is that if this feeling of like wasted years of your life, and I think people have had a bit too much of that in the last couple of years, and the idea that you might feel like the season's somehow a write-off, and don't get me wrong, it's not. That's hyperbole and it's anxiety talking, but like this, everyone's got this fear, and the fact that we literally had a season on top of that when the injuries decimated what Liverpool were trying to do, that Jürgen Klopp's good. I think Jürgen Klopp signed the contract has helped. I think Salah signed the contract has helped. That should alleviate a bit of that. But this idea that you're only going to get so many years where we're actually able to compete at the top alongside Manchester City, and you don't want to run the risk of wasting any of them. But just to go back a point, Man City drew 6 games and lost 3 last season, and and get 93 points. By the way, and that's all. I think that gets forgotten. That's a lot. That's actually, there's 9 games of football where City didn't take all 3 points. That's not a lot historically, because that's ridiculous. Like, because teams never broke 90 points. It just didn't happen. Now it happens quite a lot. But the fact is, you can still lose that many and still win the league. That's probably about the 5th or 6th highest ever points tally that a league's been. I think
it just means that you've got to make those points up somewhere else. That's what I've been saying for a while. Liverpool are going to lose games. They're going to lose games this season. They're going to draw games this season. It's what you class as a good draw and a bad draw. And now, further down the line, for example, last season, we went to Stamford Bridge just after Christmas, was it? Or around the Christmas period, and we drew 2-2. That's a good result. Yeah, but at the time, we felt like it was the shittest result ever, because it meant City's gap had gone to XYZ. And in the end, it actually turned out it might have been, because we didn't win. But that's the point, is that you've got to go make these points up somewhere else. And there's a difference, right? And this is kind of what's getting on my nerves. Like, Liverpool were crap. Liverpool aren't crap. There's a difference. Yes. I have seen Liverpool teams play crap. Yeah. I grew up with watching a lot of them. Yeah. This is a great Liverpool team who play crap. This manager and these players will sort this out. I would be shocked if they don't. Can they get to a level where they win this title? Yes, they definitely can. Will they? Who knows? I think people just are so, like you said before,
I think people have been conditioned to find blame, to look for blame everywhere. And when things don't work, what's the reason why? And that's because that's what football analysis is. That's all match today is. That's all the
Mate, Chris Kamara on fucking goals on Sunday. Every single goal that was ever scored was someone else's fault. I don't think he ever was. Every single goal was like, the defender could have been there, or why isn't? I was like,
you never get to say it was just boss. That was just really good play from the town. We do that too. We do that too often, but actually we don't have that balance when we talk about Liverpool because it's always our own fault and never someone else's. That
Fulham goal, by the way.
And listen, by the way, it's your job to do it on here, but that's where over-analysis gets you.
Yeah.
It gets you where you summed it up before. You summed up everything before by saying Liverpool play crap, but Liverpool are not crap. That's it.
And we do it because I think people are fast forwarding to the end of the season and going, well, we lost the league by a point. What if that's the result? It might
And
be.
that's sad that you're going to enjoy the party.
Exactly that. And that's the point. And so you
know what I'm looking forward to? Like Stoke City in the League Cup in a night game away.
Yeah.
I love games like that. Yeah. No, it's cold in January.
Exactly. And that's the thing, and it's tough because we all feel this. I feel like everyone feels acutely worse when Liverpool haven't won, and that's the curse of being a football fan. But that's part and parcel of it. It's like you should sign a contract when you start to support a football team, and it's like you're gonna get what we're gonna give you is this, but in return we demand this, and what we're going to give you is you're going to be giving up your happiness. You're going to be bartering or gambling your happiness each and every week, twice a week, but in return. And it's only gambling because you can't guarantee a title and you can't guarantee any of this. We're going to offer you the chance of silverware, and that's the smallest percentage. And then a slightly bigger percentage is a win. And a percentage is a goal, and then an even bigger percentage is a nice bit of skill in a football match, and bigger than that is like just a moment to get you off your seat, and that's like the quantifiable guarantees of being a fan of your football club. But you in return you're offering up basically being miserable for potentially 7 days.
Well, I'll just say something. It's a really good analogy. What's her name's going into the show tomorrow night? Jim Beglam.
Yeah.
Career got ended early, stuff like that. I said to him, and a lot of his story was about like how down he was when his career got ended early by that Gary Stevens tackle, which was a naughty tackle. And he was saying he was down and down and down for years. And when I seen him, I said to him, you have to understand. And I meant it. I said, I will cut off my arm with a rusty axe, as long as there's a doctor ready with the stitches, to be in the 1986 FA Cup final team that done the double like you. So the high I got coming out of that game has hardly ever been bettered. When we done the double against Everton in 86, I literally come off the ground and I couldn't touch the floor. And I said to Jim, do you realise how I felt? So just to play in that one game you played in, but that is the bar with football. The misery comes with it. But look, on a thing of 92 football clubs, where are we in terms of happiness?
Exactly. And again, it gets lost sometimes, doesn't it? And some people are heartened by comparison. Like that's the fundamental difference between me and my wife. I'll go, well, you feel bad about this, but look at this, and she goes, doesn't matter to me. I take great heart from knowing that people are in better or worse situations than I am, and I've referred to it loads on Redmen over the years. I had a mate in uni who was a Stockport fan. And it was the day and it was the day we sold Robbie Fowler, and we met in this club, and I had to face the floor, and he was like, "What's up with you?" And I went, "We've just sold God." Absolutely devastated. And he went, "Mate, we've got Carlton Palmer as our manager. We're fucking shit." And I was like, "Oh yeah." And I had a boss night because, like, by comparison, I was like, "Oh fucking hell, you got to swap. You've got no. You're like me. You've got no choice but to support your football club because it's something you were born with.
Yeah.
You never came. You just came. It was natural. You had no choice. You were with that football team for life, and you're basically got a percentage of misery is far greater increased because you're a Stockport fan compared to me being a Liverpool fan. And I feel sorry for you, but also." That makes me feel a little bit better.
Do you think, Paul, people, it's hard to... There's a line between criticising and just being, like, really miserable about it. I thought Liverpool were crap. Like, honestly, I can't emphasise how bad they were. It was like that first half in Spain when me and you were in Villarreal, and it was like watching, 11 lads who just found Liverpool kits and played footy. We were like, what is that? But that doesn't mean that then it has to consume to a point where it makes you miserable, angry all the time. Does that make sense?
I think people like to die on hills. I think people like that. I think some people like the misery and they like their anger because they feel like it's theirs. It's like a possession. It's like a treasured possession for some reason. No, exactly. But I don't feel I'm not like that, so I find it hard to relate to that.
I'm not like that as well. And the difficulty with social media is to decipher between the two, because you've got people who are just being miserable because they're miserable, and you get people who are moaning because of the Fulham game. It's hard to see who's who on social media, so they all go together.
And comments live forever, and also not being able to get tone or intent, and then of course you end up blanketly presuming everyone is of a way.
Yeah.
So it's like presuming everyone who voted for Brexit was a racist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like as an example of it, which just couldn't be less the case.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of racists who voted for Brexit. But if you focus on them, it's easy to go and then you end up with loads of people in entrenched situations because they're being chucked into camps that they didn't realise they actually agreed with, or shared values or views with people in that way. So it becomes a cesspit basically off the back of it. But the point is that it's not that way. One thing I want to mention actually, which I thought summed it up, and I loathe it be to give a betting company particular credit, but the social media team of a betting company, the Paddy Power advert that come out last week, where it had like the fan, and he was explaining to, like what it was like, the older fan explaining to like the miserable, and some of it was a bit on the nose, but when you see stuff like there's a guys the Exploding Heads who do like comedy sketches which takes the piss out of TalkSport, and there's a guy who does pitch meetings for movies, and when you watch something you think, oh shit, I wish I'd come up with that. The ideas are so simple, or someone's managed to boil it down into okay. But I thought that I've absolutely nailed how I feel about going on social media. There just feels like a lot of people, it feels, whether it's true or not, like a lot of real entitled minge bags who can't appreciate the good side because they feel like, I presume they feel like prognosticators, like they've seen through this all, and they've seen this deep light. They've seen the future, and it's this problem. Unless this problem gets solved, like they feel like someone's come back in time and gone, lads, there's an apocalyptic future here unless we stop someone from from doing this.
Yeah.
And but what they have, the inability to recognise that largely it's anxiety talking is the thing that I think.
I've only got to speak to my Sunderland mates. I've got a mate, Sunderland fan. I mean, they've got 40 to 50,000 in and around their town. Absolute fanatics. The thing about them is they can all get in the ground as well.
Yeah.
Whereas we struggle because it's a worldwide support now. And the Sunderland fan and what he's been through in the last 10, 20 years. Come on, perspective.
You know what it is, mate? I think the main thing is that it's hard, and this is again, we've done a few deep conversations. This might be the same as that.
I've took it there.
We started early with
we're all gonna die.
We're all on the inexorable path to the black abyss of nothingness.
I've been having an existential crisis for the last 20 minutes. But
so let's enjoy the midfield performance of John Henderson. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ.
There is an inability to accept that other people think the same as you, or differently than you rather. So, for example, I might think player X is good crap. You might think player Y is brilliant, and we can go, okay, sound.
Yeah.
But I don't have to fight you until I change your mind, and you don't have to fight me. Yeah. And that's it can be politics. Like, there are members of my family who have voted for political things that I just can't get my head around. But then I still talk to them about it. No. Because why would I bother? Because he's never going to change me, or she's never going to change me, and I'm not going to change them. It's like everyone's going to be convinced that I'm right and you're wrong, and it doesn't have to be.
It causes wars, no?
Just agree to disagree. For example, I got it this weekend, and I might as well talk about it. I got horrendous stick this weekend, to be honest, it was because of stuff you said. It wasn't even fucking me. You said so, and I was like, but Sound, you don't agree with me? Absolutely fine. You do not have to think. I thought we had a bit of a row on the show. You thought Fabinho was worse than Henderson. I thought Henderson was worse than Fabinho. And then we walked out of here and we had a cup of coffee and went home. Yeah. Like, sound? Who cares? Like, who really? Yeah. There's a reluctance to agree to disagree at all times.
Because there's niche cults around everything, and you find people get an opinion and they get validation on social media by finding another couple of people who share that opinion.
Yeah.
But then that becomes their identity. Mm-hmm. It's like people who
they cling onto it.
Well, yeah, but it's like exactly. It's like people for whom their personality or identity is Xbox, or their personality or identity is Liverpool Football Club, and I think that becomes harder. I think the more removed you are, and this is not unifiedly true about people being from Liverpool or not, but I think you have to double down on it the further away you are, because it's not as easy to connect with the football club. But if you've developed a group of mates, it's like you have it in school. You decide you like a type of music, but you've got to dress a certain type of way. If you come in the next day and you've not got, everyone wears leather jackets and you come in wearing a denim jacket, then your mates are not going to talk to you because you're not like that. So you end up having to become more entrenched in a particular scene or way or thoughts or feelings or whatever. And we've had this over Jordan Henderson. We'll talk about this in the midfield chat a bit later on. But that's what's happening, is that you get a lot of people.
God, I'm sorry, I took the whole conversation to this place.
No, sorry.
This is the deepest LFC conversation I've ever been involved in.
I've been on Redmen public shows anyway. But no, but this is the problem with it all. It's hampering people's enjoyment. I do like it when people bite back, and I must admit, I got more enjoyment out of that Paddy Power advert than I thought. I thought the Everton one was brilliant as well. By the way, the guy he's getting treated because he's been so sad and miserable, and he's feeling better. And it turns out because he's not been watching Everton all summer, which is why he's feeling better. Great.
Just a quick one on that. What's when you're away from home? I mean, I've lived away from home. No, one time I lived in Florida, and I remember the football pub everyone used to go to and to watch all the Premiership. I went worse. I was bad. I was like, in the end, every time there was a game on, all the people like Chelsea fans, Tottenham fans who came in, leave him alone in that corner. Because I used to go, fuck off.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Get away. Go on. Because I went worse.
Yeah. No, you have to.
I'm here. I'm not too bad. I'm cool here. But
but it's true. But it's like, because you've got to be demonstrably what you support or what you feel or whatever. You've got to amp it up a little bit. And I think
plus they were talking absolute shite.
Well,
that does help as well.
100%.
And then the last one is right. Is that there's an inability, I think, to agree that like not everyone's got like a hidden meaning behind what they're saying. Sometimes people, like going back to the Jürgen conversation, sometimes he's just saying what he thinks.
Yeah.
Like you're not saying, well, I Thiago is injured now, therefore Liverpool need to sign him in midfield. X, Y, I know we're going to talk about it later. It doesn't mean like it's a hill to die on. You know what I mean? Like there's nuance in all this kind of stuff. Like sometimes people just talk and. Because like people like talking, and I like talking, and you like talking, and you like talking, and that's sound. It doesn't mean I'm trying to convince you, or like I'm trying to swindle you into doing something, or you know what? I'm just gonna say this because deep down inside, I don't mean it, but I'm just trying to convey. It's like it's nonsense. Like just sometimes talk about footy's fun.
Yeah,
and we'll all agree and disagree.
The footy's meant to be fun. That's ultimately the point. And that's what I say about this is that.
It is a leisure activity.
No, exactly. But but unfortunately, we've been sold on it being more because everyone loves all this like do or die, like the heroes. And
this
the
means more.
Exactly. You
know,
well,
it is more to know to a city like Liverpool.
Yeah,
it's part of people's lives and culture.
It is.
And certain football clubs, football fans don't get that. I mean, I've talked to other fans who support other clubs, and they think we take it too far. Yeah. But I say to them, you don't realise how much that football club is ingrained in people's lives.
100%. But what I mean by that, and I agree, like, football is a central part of the identity of the city and the people, and broaden that, and it can be as much or as little to you as you want. But what I mean is the win and the quest for the need to win and the need for somewhere and all that kind of stuff is that. I don't know why people were drawn to football, but I just love football. I love kicking a ball. I love that noise that a football makes when it pings off the woodwork and goes in. I love the sound. It's got a bit romantic on it, like the ripple of the net. I love that. Same. I love the let off when it goes in. You know, I love that. Like some of the best goals I've ever celebrated have not come in Liverpool wins. You know, I think back to Mohamed Salah, Tottenham Hotspur. We drew that game because they got a late penalty. That was probably one of the best let-offs I've had in a ground for watching a football game, and no one ever talks about it because we didn't win the football match. But they're the things that we're chasing. That's what it's all about. Right, we're going to take another short break. We had a super chat from Ashley Frith come in. He says, hey Redmen, not sure if you remember me proposing, but my wedding is this Saturday. Part of the honeymoon is going to the Reds, YNWA. Well, congratulations, mate. Good luck with everything. Make sure when you're doing your post speech that you thank your bride and anyone who's majorly contributed towards the wedding. A few tips from having been it. Always say how boss your bride is, and if a major family member who maybe has got a bit of a hair trigger, make sure you thank them profusely for whatever small role they played in the wedding. That's all the advice.
Speaking from experience, then.
Absolutely. Right, yeah, very, very short break from us, and then we're going to chat about Nicky's new play and the midfield situation for Liverpool.
It is fucking August. It's baking hot. I'm not filming this in July in the middle of a heat wave. And we've got an incredible Club Legend competition for you this August. It is a signed Rome 77 shirt, and it's signed by none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Phil Thompson. To be involved, if you're a club captain, go over to redmenplus.com and upgrade your subscription to Club Legend. If you're brand new to Redmen TV, then get over to redmenplus.com, sign up as a Club Legend. You could win this incredible prize and other prizes that we give away for some reason every single month.
Yeah, we just have a little chat about how people have just got the wrong end of the stick in the comments over us using Sunderland as a comparison. We're not comparing Liverpool to Sunderland, we're comparing the happiness of fans comparatively, of course. Everyone is obsessed with their football club. Some people get more success for being fortunate enough to support a football club that's successful. Most people will have got that. For the few people that don't, I don't really know how to explain it.
The nuance of conversation can be lost sometimes, can't it?
We've written it in text form. We've literally said it in a moment.
Literally a man who writes things for a living.
Absolutely. Right, sounds. If you want to get involved with that incredible competition we've got running at the moment, we're going to sign Phil Thompson, Liverpool European Cup shirts, then you can join Redmen Plus, Club Legends here. It's amazing. Get involved.
It's a ridiculously good prize.
And we've had a few of these over the years where, last year or so, where I'm really jealous that we don't get to put it on the wall, and that's one of them. We're going to chat about the midfield, but we've got Nicky Allt in. Nicky, YNWA, let's talk about 6, baby. It's back. It's been, was it 2014? Around there, was it the last time? Because there was I remember it was just the incredible swell of optimism around the city at the time. Brendan Rodgers was the new messiah, and then we got to go to the Royal Court and sing some Liverpool songs, feel really upbeat around the football club. Why is it back? What was the motivation to bring it back to the stage?
The reason it's back is Jurgen Klopp, bottom line. And what happened was it got called off because of COVID, like life itself did. So it was supposed to be back about 2.5 years ago now. So that's when it was coming back. It was to celebrate that win in Madrid and Jurgen Klopp and stuff. And the show literally has just had a lot of stuff taken out, had new bits put back in. Liverpool, I have to say with clarity, like Liverpool's story is such a dense story. It's had that much success, and the reason I'm going to say it anyway, the reason I compared it to Sunderland is because I know a Sunderland fan who's a fanatic like me, and his whole life's been misery, where my life's been pure joy. Yeah, virtually. So to write Liverpool's show, it's a case of what you take out. So you go through the history of it, and then you go, we're going to have to leave that. We're going to have to leave that. Like the very first show that you came to see, Paul, we had no League Cup wins in it. We left them all out. We just went, sod the League Cup, it's the Mickey Mouse Cup. Yeah. So Liverpool's story is a case of taking everything out, not what you put in. There's loads. You could write 3 shows, literally write 3 shows. So what we did is we wrote it about people in the city, what it meant to them, and the reason it's back is because Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, I mean, I had such a good time with this, and it shouldn't be understated. I like theatre. I like musicals, and I remember I was having this conversation after the last one of saying it's a Liverpool musical, and you were like, oh, I'd not thought of it. You're just thinking about telling the story of Liverpool. Yeah. But the musical side of things is so, again, it's so ingrained in the culture of the football club. Yeah. It's like an oral history, a musical history of the journeys that we've been on, and that's part of the celebration of it. That's
exactly what it is. And you know what? You did say that. I remember you saying it now. I remember me going, really? But it's even more music now. So maybe you had a bit of a say in that. But literally, as I say to you, the reason the show's back is Jurgen Klopp. We've loved making the show this time because, if I just say here, just for people who want to know, there was a Celtic supporter who wrote a book and it was called Celtic in 9 Lives. And I based the show on that, Liverpool's show, because what he did was he hung Celtic's history on 9 individual characters. You can literally do Liverpool's like that. You can sort of go J.K. Holden, coming forward, you can go McKenna, then you can go sort of Elisha Scott, Billy Liddell. You come forward, you start going to the 60s, you go Shankly, and you can literally hang Liverpool's history on maybe 9 or 10 people. The thing is, the hardest thing with Liverpool is they won that much. Everyone's always going to say to you, You never mention that. You never mention this. And we are thinking now, if this comes back in 3 or 4 years, we're thinking of writing a whole new show. That's the point we've reached. Maybe the first act will be as it is, just tell it slightly differently. But Liverpool, its history's that dense, telling it in another way.
The thing is, obviously, we talk about football, it's a leisurely pastime, but the problem is you can't escape the tragedy that's part of Liverpool's history as well. And what I like is the fact that, I mean, again, it's what makes for a compelling story, at the risk of not looking to denigrate the actual tragedies that sort of happen. And again, it's one of the things that draws people to Liverpool. What I love about it is that it doesn't pull its punches, but again, we're talking about a form of entertainment, so you can go and have a drink and enjoy with your family or your friends or whatever. But that's it. It all adds up, I think, to making Liverpool what it is, and the fact that you actually were able to come back now and have a modern era of this, where there is added success, I think only speaks to what a wonderful story Liverpool Football Club is.
Well, you know what I could have done? We literally could have went. There's the first act. There's the interval. The whole second act's going to be Jurgen Klopp. We could have told a 45-minute story from when he arrived and all the trophies since. We had to put all the dark bits in, your Heysels, your Hillsboroughs. But what's happened, what Klopp's actually done, 2 scenes have virtually gone out the show, which was the marches by the Union, the Spirit of Shankly, the Hicks and Gillette stuff. It's all gone. No one cares no more. Yeah. But you know, when that show was first on, everybody cared about that because it was recent.
That's the bit I remember when I went and seen it out. It was 14 was it? Yeah. That was the bit, because it had just happened. And we had these new Americans in, and we were still a little bit unsure. Yeah. And the fact that you can replace that now, and I say you couldn't even tell Jurgen's story in 45 minutes. You probably need the whole show for it. It's crazy. Like, it's 2015 Jurgen arrived. Yeah. 7 years, and it's just like every single season's been a roller coaster. It has been crazy. Yeah. I just think it's crazy that this goes to show, like what Paul said before, and what we've all been saying, is like this footy club is just unique. It's completely different. Yeah. I've got a Man City mate, and he calls us like a cult, and he means it as an insult. Yeah. But I take it as like almost like a compliment. Yeah, it is, because like, yes, we've at the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. Like, it doesn't get any lower than what we've been through, and yet we're all still here. It's like resilience. It's like it's mad. If you'd have been asked to write a play that fiction, you would never make this up, because it's too up and down. There's too much going on. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to obviously we're going back to see in a few weeks' time, but like, the Jurgen stuff in itself has been like, it's almost been Jurgen's 7 years have been like an almost a microcosm of like of all of Liverpool, and it, like, we got lucky in Paris that it wasn't as low as it could have been, because it really was that bad. But like in terms of a football team, the highest of highs to the low, like we've had lows. Yeah. Jurgen's time encapsulates almost reflects Liverpool as a whole.
I think the thing that strikes me, and again, it's for people in the city will recognise this, and but maybe have not thought about it, or people from outside the city might not understand it. But because we've talked about this, about how people can take it too serious, and we're raised on, like, football's not a matter of life or death, it's more important than that, and this means more. And yet we've also had Liverpool fans go to football matches and not come home. You know what I mean? So things like that should trivialise comments like that, but equally we're going to sat here going, it does mean more to us. It's actually ingrained in who we are. It's an essential part of this city and our identity. But what people forget, and it's not a uniquely Scouse trait, but you only find it in certain cities, particularly in England. And I always describe being Scouse is like meeting adversity head on. And in Liverpool sense, it's screaming "you'll never walk alone" down its ear until it gives up, and then taking it for a pint afterwards. Mm-hmm. And that's that thing of like, we it's like you're challenging. There's lots of really sad things that would put you on your arse, but invariably you pick yourself up, you grab the people around you, and you get on. You remember that life is short, and you can still, in the face of this, you can still have a laugh, and you can still get on with your life and still find an upbeat angle to approach things. And that's what I think stands out about the play, is that you can go to the fact that you can go to something. It's not a story. It talks about real tragedies, but you can still come out with a spring in your step, singing the songs and having a smile on your face. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I implore people to go and check it out at the Royal Court.
No, thanks, Paul. It was a difficult thing to write that, because when we approached it, especially in rehearsals, the Hillsborough and Heysel parts as well, it was like, whoa, where'd you go here? Going back to the spirit of what you talked about, and I hope it's in this play, maybe it's the fact that we're a port city and people have come to the city in the last couple of 100 years, because it's not an old city. I mean, they say 1200, but literally the history of Liverpool is about 200 years, roughly. And it's mainly all people who've come from other places, you know, from Ireland, from Wales, from Scotland. I was only reading recently of all the great entrepreneurs who left Scotland to come and live in Liverpool, because Liverpool was a boom city where you went major money. And all these Scottish entrepreneurs did all kinds of stuff in Liverpool, which I always tend to go to the Irish thing because it's so big. So maybe we've carried that tradition on of having nothing, coming from nothing, and there's always a brighter day around the corner. Yeah. And without waxing lyrical and start to sound all mystical about it, I think that's definitely in the nature of the people. It's a bit like somebody said to me one time, Liverpool people are the kinds of person who they'll get run over by a bus, and as they sat under the bus with the bus on top of them and half chopped in half, they'll make a joke. Yeah. Can't you just get this bus off, you dickhead? It's that kind of thing.
Can't park here, lads.
Yeah.
Get on my leg.
Whereas, you know, other people would just be screaming. They'd be like a thing on Casualty on the telly, just, or he's died. A Liverpool person will crack a joke in serious adversity. Yeah. And sometimes it's taken wrongly, but I think it's being able to laugh at yourself and not take things too seriously. So I think that with the newer fan base from around the world, I think that's sometimes where it often clashes with the older fan base. And people who were like even 30s and 40s, theirs is oh, shut up, what are you on about? We've got this and we've got this. And
this is true, actually, and this is one thing I can know, because this is one of the things I can only speak to people locally, is that the younger generation in Liverpool are not as hearty against that kind of stuff. They are more quickly embarrassed. Yeah. They're more concerned about appearance and how things will be perceived.
Because it's a global world, and it's like saying,
I've changed that.
It might have, it was when Haaland missed against us in the Charity Shield, and we were literally laughing at it on the show, and someone put a comment in the section saying, well, that's going to come back. Why are you doing that for? Because when he scores and Nunes misses, they're going to clip this up and use it against you. I was like, so what? Like, so what? Honestly, so what? Who cares? Like, honestly, I can listen. I can laugh at myself all day long, and you should be able to. It's like that.
We sang, we're going to win the league after City in 2013-14 because we just beaten our title rivals. We were top of the league. Everything was going really well, and it just happened. And that's the thing. I think people forget sometimes that things just come out. And
do you know how big Liverpool are? Do you know the day that happened? That show was on in the Gaiety in Dublin, and there was literally thousands of people walking through the streets of Dublin singing the same song. Yeah. That's how big Liverpool are. Yeah. And I was looking, going, oh my God, this is just across the water in a different city. Yeah.
And exactly. And you can't, that's the point. There's like the collectivism, some shit just happens, and you've got to enjoy it in the moment. You can't worry too much about what comes off the back of it. So yeah, it's on the roller course now.
Yeah, it's on the whole of August. It ends, I think, the 3rd of September, which is Derby Day. Oof. So that can go like bum, bum, bum. So yeah, it's literally on the whole of August.
Yeah, honestly, we've waxed lyrical plenty, but I honestly think it deserves it. I've been saying to Steve for weeks, saying like, I want to get down there, I want to get some much stuff of it, because I had such a good time last time around, and we have a lot of opportunities where people say, will you promote this, will you promote that? Like I would. Honestly, I'd go to the nth degree to sell this to you guys, because if you love Liverpool, if you like a good night out, if you want a reason to get out and you want to celebrate your passions, or if you want to know more about the club, or you want to feel closer to the spirit of the feeling in the city, honestly, book it, get yourself up to Liverpool for a night.
I know there's loads of hope. People will be travelling in for home games, won't they, over the next few weeks as well. Like, it's perfect. It is genuinely. It's like you're looking for something the night before the game or the night of.
I can't put into. There was a couple of things in that 13-14 season when it was last time on. You had like the Hillsborough Independent panel come out. There was a charity game around that time. I think it might have been the Gerard Carragher one at Anfield. And this was on, and Liverpool were going for the title, and like I genuinely walked out feeling like Liverpool were back, and the thing is, we weren't at the time. We just had a little sniff of being back. Liverpool are genuinely back, so you get to enjoy it in like, not in like a nostalgic way, as you get to enjoy nostalgia, but also celebrate what's going on as well. So anyway, get to the Royal Court in Liverpool and check out YNWA. Let's talk about 6, baby. Right, the midfield. So I went through this because obviously it's the big talking point around Liverpool at the moment. Liverpool's midfield options. First of all, this is the midfielders on the books at Liverpool: Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, Thiago Alcantara, Naby Keita, Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, James Milner, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and then there's a few on the fringe, potentially Fabio Carvalho and Stefan Bajcetic. Tyler Morton's gone out on loan. Leighton Clarkson, I think, in fact, he's gone to Aberdeen.
Scored a school held in us,
yeah, he did. So I think you're looking at legitimately 8 to 9-ish midfielders who could legitimately play in Liverpool's midfield. Now, Thiago out for 6 weeks, Oxlade-Chamberlain out for 3 months, Keita's currently ill, no one really knows where that is, but you imagine that won't be too much longer, and Curtis Jones has got an undefined timeline on that. So there's, at the minute, right now, there's 4 options been taken out of that, which leaves Henderson, Fabinho, Elliott, Milner, Carvalho,
and a kid, yeah.
Bajcetic. 5 to 6. I can't argue for utter clarity on this, Nicky. I would not turn Jude Bellingham down. I would not turn down a top quality midfielder. I would not, if Liverpool said we are looking to sign someone, I would not be man in the barricades trying to stop that player coming into Liverpool Football Club in any way, shape or form. In fact, I would be openly welcoming these footballers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think there's a single Liverpool fan who doesn't feel share that sense.
Yeah.
But it is an awkward situation because I think there's upgradable members. I think there are players who can be upgraded upon quite clearly in that squad, and I think Oxlade-Chamberlain's the obvious one.
Yeah.
He's been at the club a while.
Yeah.
He's not at the heights,
Yeah.
and he's had some injury issues, and he's currently injured. But I agree. Jurgen Klopp's also come out and said we're not going to buy a midfielder for 6 weeks. We need to buy someone when you know we're going to have too many options if they all come fit. We want someone for the long term. I can appreciate that it's an awkward situation. It's not as cut and dry as just go and buy a footballer.
Yeah, and I do think it's a game of football. You can overanalyse today, and we all can, but I still think everybody... You can't kid the majority of Liverpool fans, and they all do want to sign a midfield player. Myself, personally, I just think they should just go and sign one. But what there seems to have been a history of in the last few years is we all know we can't spend at the City level. It's a business that's doing really, really well, the football club. So they obviously have got their way of doing things. But at this moment in time, it would cheer up the whole fan base and give the squad a lift, I think, if they just went out and bought an absolute class midfielder. And I don't listen, Jurgen Klopp knows better than me, but I don't see it being a problem when you've got a scouting system that's probably as big as Liverpool's and people around the world to go and find a player now who everybody just gets that lift from, who... I think he does background checks, he's got to get on with people and da-da-da-da-da. But we need a midfield player. We need to sign one now.
I can't believe that Liverpool have got certain standards, and I get that. And there's it's almost like a filter on a computer. You just tick out, is he a knobhead? Yes, well, we're not signing him. Yeah. How much money does he, whatever, all these things, age, all of it. I can't believe that when Liverpool put all their filters in, the only name left is Jude Bellingham. Yeah. I failed. That can't be the case. There must be other footballers out there that you can go and find. My thing on I saw someone tweet me yesterday, again, it's come back to social, but would you risk not signing Jude Bellingham next summer to sign player X this summer? And the argument is, well, no, because you signed both of them. At this point, as it stands right now, Ox, Naby, Milner won't be Liverpool players because they literally won't have a contract. There's a chance that some of that changes, but as it stands, those three aren't. So, Jones, I think there's who knows where Curtis's future lies. Hendo will be older and will be unlikely to be playing every game anyway. Thiago, who again, I mean, I love Thiago, but his inavailability is an issue, which the doubt is. So they kind of left it like Fabinho and Harvey Elliott and Carvalho going, well, those two are kids, who knows they are, and there's Fab. So
Liverpool not got a peerless injury record.
Liverpool should have signed a midfielder in the summer. They just should have it. And yeah, we'll move. We were oversubscribed on forwards last year when they just got Luis Diaz done because there was the chance to sign Luis Diaz. They got him, and then they waited till next month to go to Taki and to Divock and even Sadio. See you later. We'll go and we'll get one more in. So you can overstock on things. I think it would be remiss of them not to sign a midfielder now. They should have done it anyway because all those players that we mentioned, you've just listed 10 lads there. How many don't have questions about them, one way or the other? There's no.
Naby Keita's got a question still.
Of course he has. Everyone has. The only one who hasn't is probably Fabinho, who, by the way, was fucking crap the other day. He's still brilliant, but the rest of them have either got age, too old or too young, injury concerns, too old, whatever, too many, or just pure inconsistency, which is what Naby falls into, or Henderson falls into that. Henderson and Naby, they're all in that range. There's always something about them. It's hard not to peek over the garden fence sometimes and just look at Manchester and go, fucking hell, Bernardo Silva's just good all the time and always fit. And my God, Kevin De Bruyne.
But yeah, just to the point though, is he? And we feel that way.
No,
you
that's-
know, it's not peeking up the fence. Is that a grass is always green?
Maybe it is, and that's what I'm saying. But it's hard. Like you look at Kevin De Bruyne and there'll be City fans. I'm going back to mate earlier.
Gundogan's got all the same problems.
Me mate, exactly. My mate, I look and think Gundogan, and he'll just list about 20 things why Gundogan's the worst player in the world, but we're all getting envious of players. So
Calvin Phillips is the one. And not because I think he's good enough to play for Liverpool. He might be. I'm just, I don't care enough about him to have a strong opinion on Calvin Phillips as a footballer.
he just went and got him because there was a need.
He's a footballer who's not going to play. He's not going to start every game for Man City, but they've just gone and bought an England international for a good chunk of change, who effectively is going to replace Fernandinho, who's a backup option. He'll end up playing a couple of games at centre half. He'll come in and he'll do what he did at the weekend, when he comes in right at the end, play a few minutes here and there. He'll keep Rodri fit and fresh. But that's the kind of player Liverpool don't seem to buy. Yeah. We don't seem to go and get the lad who's going to know he's a squad player, because that's not how our side's constructed. And if you start buying lads like that at Liverpool, we run the risk of undermining. I fear what we're doing. But the problem we've got is that, again, what we all need is to someone to come back from the future and tell us it's going to be all right. No one's ever going to be able to do that. When I don't freak out about this as much is two things. A, I've been reading the comments on Liverpool social media and videos for 10, 12 years or whatever. So I see this every year. We have this exact conversation every year.
The Liverpool side that won the title had people just bollocking Gini Wijnaldum. Everybody just hated
always one position we are perceived to be too short in. And the problem is that one year we were, and that was the year when all the centre-halves got injured. That was the year where Virgil van Dijk got out for the season, Matip was out for the season, and Gomez was out for the season, and then Henderson ended up out for the season.
Fabinho got injured
as well.
We signed Kabak, and then Davis injured.
And he got out for the season. Blah, blah, blah. And the problem is that vindicates the fear to some extent. Every single season we've had this. And last season, what was it? Anyone remember? It was the midfield, I'll tell you. It was the midfield. We were having this exact conversation a year ago, and all of the points were exactly the same.
Oh, at the beginning of the season.
This time last year, the exact conversation was Liverpool need to go and buy a midfielder.
Till the hunt for 4 trophies had all got forgotten, yeah. That's right, yeah.
And what we didn't know at the time was that Harvey Elliott could play midfield, but then of course Harvey Elliott then got injured 3 games into the season and missed the vast majority of it. But the only slight difference where I agree that maybe what's happened at the weekend might shift our thinking. It's Thiago for 6 weeks makes a big difference.
And they're all getting older.
Yes, of course. They're all a year older, but also Jordan Henderson played more minutes and more games last season than he's ever played under the
which in itself is a worry. This might be...
Yes and no, Steve, but but people are questioning. People talk about his availability, and people talk about that he's shown it's actually possible. People worried about the centre halves. It's just because someone always had these problems. We've actually shown weirdly that we can get more out of people in terms of minutes and availability. What I mean by the Thiago thing is this time last season, Henderson didn't start the season because he'd been to the Euros with England. Thiago didn't start the season because he'd been to Spain, to the Euros with Spain, and he was carrying an injury, so we had to ease him into the season. And we had a couple of other. Naby Keita is Naby Keita going to be capable of adding anything to Liverpool? We had the same question marks.
Fab didn't start the first game, did he?
Fab didn't start. Milner started at the start of the season because I think they'd had
Brazil due to Copa America.
Can I just say something as well? Just to interject for a minute, is your problem that you've got is the side that started against Fulham, what we were talking about before about if you don't start at a level. These players are all good footballers, and if they're going to start at Fulham's level, as in effort-wise, these teams, Liverpool, with their crowd, with their passion, with their history, with them level of players at the Fulham level of effort, they're going to drag you through games. We could go on a 10-game run now with what we've got. But whether they're going to be able to play to them levels of every single game, everybody knows now. Surely in South America and Europe somewhere, there's a brilliant young midfielder who's 21, 22. Yeah. We can go and put 40, 50.
And also, Paul, the Thiago 6 games thing is that sort of 6 weeks. It's actually loads of games because September is full of games.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's what I mean. I think
it's 9 games, which is almost a quarter. You're missing Thiago for essentially a quarter of the season.
True, it's mad when you say it like that.
It's crazy, but it's what's happened, unfortunately, is that a lot of the questions about a lot of these players that we had are starting to come true after 1 week. Yeah. We all knew Thiago is likely to get a hamstring injury at some point, and that's the point.
And this is where I agree, and where what I'm doing here is I'm laying it out because there's a reality to this, is that we always have these fears. And sometimes, very rarely do the fears realised.
It was terrible last year. Yeah. And it got totally like rubbed away.
Totally, you know, and to the point where we had 3 or 4 really good lads who couldn't even get on the bench at the back end of last season because we had too many players, and that's what Liverpool will be wary of.
Yeah.
I would still contend, by the way, that in terms of depth, in terms of quality of depth, we've still got more depth than Manchester City this season.
They're just all injured at the minute.
Yeah, exactly.
10 of them.
But at some point, it's when will they be back? And can you cope until they get back? And when they come back, is that what's the damage done in terms of their fitness? Is that going to recur? Is that going to be a bigger problem? We saw last season having Diaz. We weren't meant to have Diaz. We had our hand forced into Diaz,
and it helped.
And also, we were meant to be back. We tried to buy Carvalho in January as well, and we couldn't get over that over the line before the deadline day. Window shut, so we might have actually had even more extra players, and that benefited us in a big way. So we've seen the benefits of actually going maybe one more than we feel.
Can I just jump in very quick? The argument I've got is that actually it's not, for me, it isn't a depth thing. It's a gump by someone who starts. I don't think it would be that hard at the moment to find someone who just walks into our midfield for whatever reason, whether it's.
I disagree.
I know that. Yeah, we have different views on players.
Just take a breath on that a second. Do you think it would be easy to get someone who walks into Liverpool?
Not easy. I think there will be players out there who are available. Yes, I know for a fact there is.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like ease is a relative term.
Okay.
When Liverpool, because this is the point. I know Thiago's injured at the moment, but he's not. When he's fit, he plays because he's brilliant. Because there's very few footballers who are better than Thiago at what he does. I agree that right midfield slot is unstable, because I don't know that Jordan can consistently put the levels down at that. On his day, showed against Man City in the Community Shield, and some people disagreed, but he had a good game in that game, and he's had lots of really good games in that position. But we're leading more towards, I think, him and Fabinho in rotation for the 6, which I think is absolutely fine. I think Harvey can be a transformative midfielder on that side, but then you're still looking at okay. So it's then Fabinho, Thiago, Harvey. Is anyone else as good as that? Carvalho might be. Yeah, that might be a transformative thing.
I think you could. I think, and I'm kind of with Nicky here, there's a player out there somewhere who's better than Jordan Henderson, who stays fitter than Thiago, who is fitter than all. You know, he's just a level above them all, who stays fit all the time. I'm not saying he has to be. He doesn't have to be the most solid of midfielders, but there's certainly I don't know. Let's say the Joel Matip of midfielders, who's a really good player.
Can I just to put
that level?
You know who that midfielder was last season, and this is where everyone's heads fell off. Can you remember his name?
And it went to shit. Yeah,
it was Sal Niguez. He's a full international. Played Champions League football. Been playing in La Liga for all of his career at a really high level. Playing for a good team at Atletico Madrid, and he went to Chelsea and did fuck all. Yeah. Barely got a kick, and didn't improve them, and everyone was dead certain that he would be an improvement on what Liverpool
It was like got to sign Werner, didn't he? Got to sign Werner.
Exactly.
And can I ask you a question? Can I just throw back to you, and maybe you was on it, is that why do you think they didn't sign a midfielder in the summer? What do you think? Was it a case of they wanted there was 2 lads and they couldn't get either of them, so they just signed? Do you think that's literally the only reason why they've done it?
I would surmise that maybe they've got something with Bellingham, like an agreement, whether it's a personal agreement, because it feels similar to Virgil van Dijk this to me, and we didn't realise at the time, but Konate too. And that's what I mean about coming back from the future, is in 2 or 3 years' time, when Jude Bellingham's the best midfielder on the planet for Liverpool Football Club, we'll laugh at this. We'll laugh at how wound up we got, because Liverpool goes on, and I know we're all living for the here and the now and this season, the season in front of us. We don't want to feel like we're sacrificing a year of our lives for it. But we're existing in the past of the Jude Bellingham Liverpool future, potentially. But the problem is we might not be, and this might be total mismanagement, because God knows we've seen that before. But Liverpool have, and again, this is what I'm trying to say is I think Liverpool should buy a midfielder. I think Liverpool should go and buy a brilliant midfielder. But I've seen us get this right too many times for me to be. I'm not losing sleep over it. Is what I'll say, because I've got a bit more longevity about it.
That's why I always stay positive, because they do always seem to get it right. They always pull it round.
No, I'm with you. Liverpool should have bought a midfielder. They should buy a midfielder. Is it the end of the world if they don't? I would say no.
But I will agree that the situation has been exacerbated massively, because Thiago's not going to be. He's going to potentially miss 9 games of football, and then how long? And then if he's missed that, Does he then have little knock-ons throughout the season? Answer is probably yes.
That's why I'd sign a player, mate, because of the injuries.
Because I think he's too important to how we play.
We've actually made...
And the other injuries too. It's just that the level of injuries, players are older, you know, you're going to be playing a lot of games when the League Cup kicks in and all the Champions League kicks in.
Also, mate, like, Liverpool changed. They got rid of a player who played every single game, but wasn't as good as Thiago. They brought in Thiago, who was, like, world-class. He's brilliant. But he's going to have missed like 40% of the games he could have played. Some of it's not on him. Richarlison broke his leg. There's nothing you can do about that. But some of it has been muscle stuff, which kind of, I think, you know, the biggest predictor of injury is previous injury. Like, you can't stay injured kind of thing. So Liverpool transformed to get Thiago in the team. They changed a lot. They broke the mould. Liverpool don't sign players who are that old, really. And they don't spend that much money on them and give them that much wages. And they don't really get lads who have got the injury history that they've got. They gambled on Thiago. And when it works, it works brilliantly. Yeah. But at the moment, we've seen the plus side of Thiago. He helped us win 2 cups and we got close to winning everything. The negative side isn't we're dealing with the negative.
We need to be signing, because I think in Jude Bellingham we're signing the next Jordan Henderson, and people will scoff at that because they feel disrespectful for Jordan Henderson. What I mean is a guy who can play box to box, who's got great skill in small areas. He's got a much higher ceiling than Jordan Henderson. But what I mean by that is you're upgrading on Jordan Henderson with this next lad, this next in line. Who's the next Thiago? Because if you can't get, if let's say Bellingham's the next Henderson in our plans, and you couldn't get him this summer, can you speed up the process to go and replace Thiago? We might have done that already in Carvalho as a point, by the way, because Elliott might be that for Henderson and Carvalho might be that for Thiago, and it's then who else can you get to fill in? Again, these are all unknowns, but I would also qualify this with, and I know it's a bit of a boring answer, there's like PhDs working on this. You know what I mean? With like theoretical scientific models that couldn't even.
Do you know what? I was just thinking that. And you know, my way of looking at it, it's sometimes as an old fashioned. I think nowhere around the world now, on this planet now, there's got to be a footballer like Bellingham or like a Gerrard playing in for Boca Juniors or someone. Surely we're looking at him and going, that kid's brilliant. He's 21. He's going to come here and tear the league up. Yeah. But then he comes here and you've seen him on the TV. He looks so good. And 2 or 3 games and you go, he's not that great, is he?
We're not the Liverpool that we grew up on. No. You know, and certainly me and
this is why I don't often come on for that reason, honestly.
You know, there was you look at the players that are being linked with like Newcastle and getting linked with even like Spurs,
Man United.
Anthony's been linked with Man United. That's the kind of player who 10 years ago we'd have been dead excited by, because he's coming from the Dutch league. He's played a bit of Champions League. You can watch a bit of him, but you don't know loads. But he looks quite exciting. Yeah. Like Leon Bailey's a good example. Like, you know, he's at Leverkusen, was turning up. He's at Villa, and he's obviously had tons of injury problems, but he looks a really good player. That's the kind of player you'd be like, oh wow. And it wouldn't matter, because he'd come into Liverpool, and if he only scored 5 goals, he'd be a cult hero forever. You've got to be able to come in and score 50. If you want to play Liverpool's front 3, you've got to score 15 to 20 goals to play Liverpool's front 3. If you want to play Liverpool's midfield, you've got to be able to tackle like Fabinho. You've got to be able to have the engine of Jordan Henderson, and you've got to have the passing range of Thiago Alcantara.
James Milner.
But that's it.
You know, the player is for me, and loads of people will disagree with me. I know they will. Honestly, I just think and the club will know better. And you said they've got PhDs working on it. I look at Trent Alexander. Now, if you drop into the centre of midfield now in like that Fulham game, he's going to not give them an inch the way they're doing it that way. He can play all day. He can put Salah through all day. Sometimes at right back, for me, it just feels a little bit like he's still a little bit wasted because he's that good.
Yeah. Again, and that's a random thing. Like Calvin Ramsey could come good, and then Liverpool are forced to change their plan a little bit, you know, and maybe that frees up. I don't know. The point is, we can never know, and I agree that it doesn't solve the fears. And the fears would all be solved by Liverpool signing someone. They probably should do. What I'm saying is, they probably won't, so try not to get too wound up about it, because it doesn't impact. We've still got to turn up and support the team. Don't let it take the edge off supporting still the best Liverpool team we've ever seen in our lives, because of transfer business. To the point I'm trying to make, the circumstances are not identical, but we had this exact conversation last summer, and Liverpool nearly won a quadruple this year, nearly did the impossible, and the midfield options are arguably okay, not today because of a couple of injuries, but like Harvey Elliott is a year further on in his development. Other lads are a year further on in their understanding of being Liverpool footballers and all those kind of stuff. Don't let it get you down too much. But Liverpool, if you could just sign someone, that'd be great. The fact, again, it boils down to, they clearly wanted Tchouameni, and the fact that doesn't get across the line, it's mad that they've then not gone and bought someone. But again, we were sat there when we didn't sign Virgil van Dijk going, well, we clearly need a centre half because they've gone for Van Dijk. Well, they can't get Van Dijk, go and buy someone. just go and buy any, and I reference it, Stefan de Vrij was the one. Everyone's like, go and buy him, he's the other one linked, just go and buy him, centre-half, just go and buy him. And they were going, no, we've got good centre-halves. We had Lovren, and we had Matip, and we had Gomez, and they were going, it takes a lot to be better than that. And we go, no, don't be daft. You can dead easily get another centre-half, and we waited, and we got the best centre-half who's probably ever played the game, because we waited. We did the same way in the January, and was going, we've got no centre-halves, go and buy a centre-half, and they didn't. They got Ozan Kabak on loan, who ultimately was a bit crap, and they bought Ben Davies, who's not kicked the ball for us, because they knew they were getting Kanate, and now we've got the 4 best centre-back options any football club's got on the planet, because they made sure they got the right one. They made weight, and it was sound. Doesn't make us feel any better here in the here and now.
There's also an element of what's I'm here. A lot of younger people really, really badly want to win the league again. Now, Liverpool, you look at that Barcelona game and they won 4-0, and everybody before that game's thinking, okay, we're going out, but just go out with a little bit of something. Because the team that played that night had injuries and stuff, and we were down 3 and whatever. And then we hammered Barcelona. You can't do that over every single week. You can't do a Barcelona kind of thing. But me as an older fan, what I know at Liverpool is if Liverpool end up 3rd or 4th in the league, it won't be the end of the world, because we'll go out and we'll go and win a trophy. We'll go and win. We'll be in the Champions League final again, or we'll be in the semi-final.
And moreover, Nicky, now's not the time to write off Liverpool's potential chances of anything, because we're 1 game into the season. They've already lifted a piece of subway that they haven't lifted before.
You never do that with Liverpool.
No,
never,
exactly that. It'll be, and one other, but my kind of final point on it, ultimately, we've got 3 weeks left of the transfer window. If they do, amazing. Everyone will be made up. If they buy someone, that will ease our pressure immensely. If they don't, it's Liverpool Football Club. What will actually more likely happen is another hero will rise. Someone else will rise to the challenge and make themselves a Liverpool hero, because that's what happens, and that's your Barcelona point, is that was the moment where Jean Jacquet comes out of nowhere and sets up Gini Wijnaldum. That's the moment where James Milner comes on at fullback. Exactly. You got these random heroes crop up.
Yeah, that's football.
The pressure will be turned to Harvey Elliott, and the pressure will turn to Fabio Carvalho, and it will turn to Curtis Jones.
Or Darwin Núñez.
Yeah, exactly.
Curtis Jones is the one more than anybody you'd love to see step up and become a brilliant player for us, because he's a local kid. Yeah. Everyone knows he's got all the skill in the world. You just want him to be that player, don't you?
I totally agree on that. But yeah, again, at the moment, I understand it feels a little bit up in the air. The obvious solution is to buy a footballer, but that's the thing. That's because that's what we're privy to. We'd all do that. Let's just go and do that. But if not, it's not ultimately, it's not the end of the world. It's not. Callum Lee sent a super chat in while we were chatting from a conversation earlier. He said, when Jurgen Klopp makes excuses, he takes media criticism and pressure away from the lads. It works every time. He knows what he's doing. That's an interesting point. Just kind of back up what we were saying.
That's right. There's 2 ways of looking at it. It's either he's either a genius or he's just dead honest.
Yeah.
Probably both.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely a bit of both. He wears his heart on his sleeve, doesn't he? Right. Thank you so much, everyone who's joined us for the podcast this week. Do go and check out YNWA at the Royal Court for the rest of August. Whether you're looking, and I know from my personal situation, I know Steve can relate to this. Some holidays, your kids are climbing all over you. Maybe, hand them off for the night. You want a reason to get out the house. Well, this is on. It's only on for a few weeks. Go and get your tickets booked. It gives you a reason to go out. It's in the diary. You go to mums and dads and babysitters. I've got this in the calendar. I've got to go. We've got these tickets. People will always be more forgiving of you when you've got plans set in stone. Go and check out. Have a boss night. Have a good old sing-song and get closer to your football club. And of course, support local creativity as well, which is always a very good thing indeed. Nicky, thanks so much for taking the time.
No, thank you.
Coming
brilliant,
up
brilliant place. This, love it.
It's funny because me and Nicky have known each other quite a long time from me doing Redmen, but yeah, from back in the day of it being in the back room of my house, the first time you've been in the proper studios.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well done for setting this up.
Funny journey we've all been on in this. And of course, thank you so much to Steve. Thanks to all the people who said nice things to Steve this weekend, because the internet's full of beats. Right, we're going to be chatting a little bit about that. We're going to be doing Podcast Extra. Nicky's going to be stepping out to get on with his day. Ross is going to be joining us in the studio for Podcast Extra, which is all the stuff that we couldn't possibly broadcast on YouTube and put on podcasting services. The more X-rated version of the podcast, we had some of the weird, wilder stuff. And people always say to me, like, when are you going to bring the Mach and Payjack podcast back? The closest thing to that podcast is Podcast Extra on Redmen Plus. So go over there, redmenplus.com, sign up and get our unbroadcastable Podcast Extra show in video and in your ears in podcast form. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us, for listening after the fact, and for all the people who joined us live on the podcast and commented, and particularly to the ones who didn't get the whole Sunderland reference. It'll come to you. Just ask someone for help to figure it out for you. You'll be fine. Gents, thank you so much, and we'll see you for another podcast next week. Ta-ra. Get closer to Liverpool Football Club and the amazing city of Liverpool with Redmen Plus. More content for your eyes and ears, documentaries, extra bonus Redmen shows, podcast features, interviews. Get close to the culture of Liverpool Football Club on Redmen Plus.